Toshinori Yagi, also known as All Might, is the former #1 pro hero who bore the title of the world's symbol of peace. He teaches foundational hero studies at UA High School. All Might was the 8th holder of the One for All quirk after receiving it from Nana Shimura. He has since passed the torch to Izuku Midoriya, whom he is training to be his successor. After using up all the embers of One for All to defeat All for One, All Might retired and ended his era as the world's greatest hero. In his empowered form, Toshinori is a very large man with an equally muscular and well-defined physique. His design resembling a typical Western comic book superhero. He has chiseled features on his face with a strong jawline, pronounced cheekbones, and bushy eyebrows. He has short blonde hair, swept backward, with 2 distinct tufts that stick up above his head, leaning slightly to each side. His strong features regularly cast a dark shadow over his face, hiding everything but his bright blue eyes. Toshinori's Golden Age hero costume consisted of a skin-tight blue bodysuit decorated with a red symbol that somewhat resembles a Y, designed with the white diamond at its center, with white lines connected to it that trace from his chest to his back shoulders, the lines trimmed with the aforementioned red symbol. The symbol appeared to have wings on the side that ran from atop his torso before ending around his back, over which was a similar red and white design absent of the white diamond. Large white patches lined with red covered each side of his hips before ending at his lower thighs, and he wore a gold belt that had a silver buckle with red eyes. His forearm sleeves were colored in gold that each had white lines covered in blue accents over his wrists, and spiked fins on the sides of his arms. His feet were covered in shin-length gold boots trimmed with white and red accents. In his true form, after sustaining permanent damage from All for One, Toshinori's declining health reduced him to a very skinny man with sharp, angular features and long limbs. His neck long and his eyebrows absent. He possesses a large scar that covers most of the left side of his chest, and it is not uncommon for him to spout blood from his mouth when excited or surprised. He typically wears baggy clothing to accommodate the change in body mass between forms, but after the end of Toshinori's tenure as a hero, he starts wearing clothes that fit him in his true form, as he no longer needs big clothes that fit his muscle form. In his early career, Toshinori was a lean but fit young man. In his empowered form, his facial features were noticeably softer. In both his normal and empowered form, he did not have shadowed eyes on his face, completely showing his white sclery while retaining the deep blue irises of his eyes, possibly showing how he was not a shell of his former self. All Might's hero persona appears to be derived from comic book superhero stereotypes. Exuberant and filled with dramatic flair, he always protects and saves innocent people with a huge smile. The habit of smiling was ingrained in him by his mentor, Nana Shimura, who believed that the ones who smile are the ones who are the strongest. Though he can be annoying at times, All Might is amicable due to his popularity and years in the spotlight, always taking his time to interact with fans. Once All Might revert to his true form, he becomes reserved and solemn, avoiding attention in direct contrast to the grandiosity of his hero identity. While he's an optimist, he's still unsure as his goals are grounded in reality. When a quirkless Izuku tells him about his goal of becoming a hero, All Might praise him for having a dream but reminds him to stay realistic and suggests he enter another profession that helps people. He considered the harsh words necessary to save the boy from long-term frustration. In this form, he frequently vomits blood as an indicator of his fragile health, although it might happen if he gets surprised or amused enough. 2 personality traits that seem to be always present in him, regardless of which form All Might is currently taking, are his optimism and oafishness. Since his young days, All Might had always carried a single, yet burdensome goal in his mind: to become a pillar of hope that people could always rely upon during harsh times. After obtaining One for All from Nana, All Might rose to become not only a hero but a legend, thanks to his seemingly endless competency in charisma. No matter who or what he faced, All Might would stand up triumphantly every time, one battle after another, inspiring the world and sending fear into the hearts of villains everywhere. He has a chronic ability to save as many people as he can, a trait he shares with his successor. He exhausted himself and fell behind on his other hero duties, such as filing paperwork. Though he was embarrassed by it, he still gratefully accepted the offer of Tsuranitai and, later, Naomasa Tsukaki to file his reports. After his fight against All for One, he considered it necessary to keep his weakened state hidden from the public, for the sake of keeping up morale. Unfortunately for All Might, injuries inflicted on his body were starting to take a toll on him. Despite the concern and warnings from some of his close associates, All Might's determination to preserve society from evil prevented him from relinquishing his role as the symbol of peace. His smile, once a gesture that served to calm others, started becoming more of a way for All Might to hide his fears and insecurities from the general population. As time passed, All Might began to forget some of the basic principles of heroism, until Izuku, in a brave attempt to save Katsuki Bakugo from the sludge villain's attack despite being quirkless, rekindled his heroic spirit and taught him that something can always be done to fight injustice. Above all else, he considers self-sacrifice the noblest action. This comes in many forms for All Might, such as the physically on the battlefield, but also mentally, sacrificing so much of his time. He barely has a private life. He believes in this core value so much, he dropped Tsuranaitai's preparations for a successor on a whim after witnessing Izuku's single act of selflessness to save Katsuki. This selflessness has served All Might well to become a symbol, as civilians trust his words, "Do not fear," truly knowing he won't hesitate to save them. That dismissal of his safety eventually caught up to him, causing issues with both his work and personal life. As a UA teacher, he couldn't help but be distracted helping people on his morning commute, shortening his time with his students. It also estranged All Might from Tsuranitai, who disagreed on whether he should be avoiding his prophesied death or continue hero work. All Might attempted to ignore his prophesied death, keeping it secret from Izuku for a long time. At Inko Midraya's request, he gained a new resolve to avoid it entirely. He found a greater value in his own life, knowing Izuku needed him as a mentor, not just a savior. Izuku has compared All Might's personality to their mentor Gran Torino since both of them played him often. All Might is more intelligent and perceptive than his campy image would suggest. He has a tactical mind when it comes to battle strategies and public speaking. Assessing a villain's threat level, he skillfully applies the necessary force and avoids injuries when possible. If he's in control, he even makes dramatic performances out of their defeats. As examples to other villains, his presence alone decreased Japan's crime rate by 3%. He's aware of villain tactics, such as monologuing, and actively ignores them. Only the most manipulative of villains, like All for One, can bring out rare instances of anger in All Might, such as catching him off guard and giving him a mortal injury, as well as mocking his late master, Nana, causing All Might to rise in anger, saying that he would destroy All for One's wicked ambitions and bitterly stating that the villain would die in prison. Despite his battle intelligence, his great powers and fame make him dissociated from others' capabilities, and Gran Torino asserted this made him ill-suited to teaching. Sometimes All Might underestimates his students and is outsmarted as a result. Lacking teaching experience, he required a script to convey his first lesson to Class 1A. He is also reprimanded on occasion by his fellow teacher, Eraserhead, for being sometimes unavailable for his teaching duties. However, All Might bringing his typical attitude into his teaching can be beneficial, creating an energetic and motivating environment. While his UA co-workers respect him as a pro-hero, they can get frustrated with the conflict his presence brings to the school, such as attracting journalists. He has also faced criticism from the media for attracting villains to UA. For Izuku especially, All Might has a habit of projecting himself onto his Prot A tilde copyright G8 tilde copyright and overestimating his limits as a result. While All Might grew accustomed to being able to use one for all at 100% instantly, Izuku received grave injuries when he did so. After receiving multiple scoldings from Recovery Girl for encouraging Izuku's self-destructive behavior, they both realized that the boy needed to be his hero and develop in his way. This is reflected when All Might told Endeavor, after taking his place as the number one pro-hero, to figure out on his own what kind of symbol he wanted to be. While All Might wishes to inspire others, he is not self-righteous and sees the value of different ideologies. He also has respect for other professions outside of heroes, such as the police force, while others tend to underappreciate them. All Might always prioritize the lives of others over his own, considering them his responsibility. Still, All Might is deeply aware that saving everybody in the world is an impossible task, which is why he sought to become a symbol who could inspire others to take action as well. While All Might is seen smiling, laughing, and being cheerful most of the time, he is extremely protective of his students, showing a very rare instance of rage if they're in danger. He is willing to go above his limits for their safety, making sure to alleviate their worries through his trademark smile. Despite having the best intentions of becoming a symbol that everyone could rely on, All Might's debut and tremendous rise in the world of heroes also came with unintended downsides and consequences. As a result of his immense power, society began to over-rely on both him and other heroes in general, to the extent where they would become downright ignorant and thinking that a hero would always appear on the scene and rectify any situation, becoming more like bystanders and spectators in the process. This was unfortunately the very opposite of what he wanted to inspire in people, and would also be the main catalyst of his mentor's grandson becoming a villain when no one turned to help him, causing him to be found by All for One. In other and more extreme cases, Endeavor would go to horrible lengths to surpass All Might, such as creating his son, Shato, to train him to surpass All Might as his father's successor. Furthermore, fanatics such as Stain believed that All Might was the true example of what every hero should be, and killed those whom the hero killer believed were unworthy and did not meet his standards. All Might have a fatherly attitude towards his students. His successor is Zuko, in particular, and takes pride in helping their development as future heroes, being quick to give encouraging advice and celebrate their accomplishments, but he's also not afraid of pushing them further, even if he ends up going a bit too far. All Might have the habit of adding young, A-ring degrees A-ring superscript 1 shonen to the surname of his students whenever he is speaking out loud or thinking to himself, X. Young Madrya. However, during the final exams arc, out of all the teachers he is, by far, the most truthless. Like his hero persona, All Might can put on a theatrical villain one, doing it to bring out the full potential of others with rough love. His sheer intimidation alone was, according to Izuku, similar to that of Stain. When Katsuki stated that he'd rather lose than seek Izuku's assistance, All Might be more than willing to force Katsuki to lose. He almost punched Katsuki hard enough for him to vomit, showing he will not hold back and is willing to injure his student if that means they'll pass the exams properly. He would even go as far as to crack Izuku's back, as well as crush them both under his boot, all of which earned him a serious scolding by Recovery Girl. Overall abilities, while officially earning the rank of the #1 hero of Japan, All Might be also well recognized as the greatest hero in the world. He was the symbol of peace and such a deterrent against crime that villains were largely discouraged by his presence in society, single-handedly bringing near absolute stability throughout Japan. A stark contrast to the rest of the world, he was able to defeat All for One, infamously known as the world's most powerful villain, twice a feat that all the previous wielders of One for All could not. Despite winning, however, All Might suffered a gruesome injury at the hands of All for One that limited his maximum power output going forward, gradually reducing his sheer might and how long he could use his power at all. After his quirk was constrained by his injuries, and even after he passed it on to Izuku, relying on the residual energy of One for All, All Might's power and capabilities were still unmatched by any other hero, despite his strength and time limit decreased more rapidly. Against Izuku and Katsuki, who are among Class 1A's elites, he completely dominated them in their fight, even while wearing high-density weights. Forced to once again break the limiter placed on his quirk, All Might defeated All for One by using up his remaining reserves of power. Even though he is unable to keep his hero form for more than a few seconds after his final battle with All for One, All Might still keep a keen intuition and sharp reflexes, which helped him hone his skills as a hero ever since he acquired his powers. This is shown in his observations regarding Izuku's use of One for All, and the fact that he was capable of catching one of my Hatsume's babies coming in from behind with minimal effort in his true form. Despite his physique in his true form, he is quite physically able but isn't as efficient compared to when he is in his hero form. Trained muscles. Usage of One for All requires the user to have strong muscles, as One for All is a lot to handle and could cause the user's body to be blown apart if they don't possess the necessary strength of the body. Gran Torino said that All Might, in particular, had a strong body that allowed him to master One for All much faster than previous users. Indomitable spirit. All Might's will is clear in almost all of his actions as a hero. He is known for saving people with a smile and his catchphrase "I am here," two facets of him being the symbol of peace. During the pinnacle of his battle against the USJ Namu, All Might remembered his resolve of being the symbol of peace, and his resolution allowed him to push beyond 100% of his power to finally defeat the artificial human. Another prominent spectacle featuring All Might's willpower was during his showdown with All for One. One of All for One's primary strategies in their fight was to wear down All Might psychologically, such as taunting All Might by mentioning the latter's former mentor and predecessor, Nana, as well as revealing that Tamura Shigaraki is her grandson. The first taunt enraged All Might, while Tamura's kinship to Nana made him despair greatly. However, despite the guerrilla warfare employed by All for One, All Might remembers Nana's teachings on heroism, and re-established his will, enabling the weakened hero to muster up some of his remaining power to continue fighting. Worn out of his muscle form and faced with certain defeat at the hands of a virtually unscathed All for One, All Might was still able to channel what was left of One for All to defeat All for One in a single strike. All Might possesses an extremely strong presence that has struck fear into others, such as Izuku and Katsuki during the final exam. This aura was strong enough to cause two villains to freeze in terror even though they'd been prepared to kill him despite him being powerless. Teaching. While All Might has shown to be a poor teacher on occasion, as he lacks proper teaching practice and required a script for his first lesson, he does show to have his exceptions when it comes to training and hero practice. All Might be able to help train Izuku Midoriya's skinny body into a muscled vessel for One for All, having created a training regimen that would allow Izuku to train up his body and safely inherit his quirk in the limited space of 10 months. Furthermore, he realized that Izuku had been deliberately pushing himself to go even further, revealing that he designed the regimen so Izuku could train his body properly, but without completely exhausting himself. This shows that All Might does have a great understanding of physical training and the human body's limits. His first practical battle lesson was also designed realistically, with him giving the villain team earpieces to communicate and a map of the building, whilst the hero team would go in without said advantages, replicating a similar experience to heroes storming a villain's hideaway without proper preparation. He also assigned one as partners randomly, as Izuku pointed out that pro heroes often have to team up on the spot and make use of their collaborative skills. Following his retirement, it is revealed that he studied teaching more intently from a guidebook, as he commended Izuku for having developed his fighting style and was also seen advising Kyokujiro during Wana's ultimate move training. This shows that he has improved in giving verbal advice and feedback to his students as well, realizing the proper steps he needs to take to motivate them without giving them the complete